So time for the review. Today we are reviewing the Elusive Samurai. I don't have the Japanese name in front of me. Here we go. Nige Jozu no Wakagimi is a show from the summer 2024 season. This was a listener choice. I don't know why Caroline's name is here for
She's the one who
She
did the
failed it.
impressions and failed it
Okay,
in
Caroline did
episode
the impression in
740.
episode 740. Um, yeah, and you can watch this on Crunchyroll, and it's by the studio Cloverworks, and it is based off of a manga of the same name. I'm going to assume because
Yeah.
I'm awesome audibles. Yeah, and so basically the story is about this basically the heir to the shogunate is named Toku Yuki. And one day during his peaceful life, his whole city is basically burned and his family was usurped, and he had to run away with a seemingly fake shaman with very bright lights glowing from his face. And he said he sees the hero in him and that he is going to retake the throne at some point, and he is going to help him do that. And so along the way, he meets a bunch of retainers, and they fight a bunch of interesting characters along the way, all in the service of eventually defeating the one who led to the downfall of the Kamakura, the city of Kamakura, or the Kamakura district. I hold on, I can't find his name here. It is Takauji Ashikaga, and yeah, and it's a yeah, that's sort of like a brief synopsis. I feel like that wasn't just the My Anime List synopsis. I made that up as from
Thank
watching
you.
the
I
show, guys.
appreciate
Good
that.
job.
Yeah, I
Love
know it
to
was
see it.
actually I could do better, but like
You could have said
not
something
bad
like,
for off the.
"Is mini skirt Santa the real?" I can't even fake how bad it was. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is
So
miniskirt Santa in VeggieTales?
yes.
Man,
So
just keep
what
on writing the
were
fan art.
your expectations going into the show, Raggedy?
So at the beginning of every season, I always try to pick through a few YouTube videos to just get a sense of like what's coming out, what to expect. And this was on a few of those lists, so I got glimpses of it, and the animation looked great from those snippets. And it's no surprise because it's Cloverworks, and like we said earlier, Cloverworks usually does deliver on the animation front. Um, and then kind of the concept of escaping as a fighting skill seemed interesting, something different. Um, then I heard Caroline's impression, and I was a little worried that there was a one character in particular that was going to possibly hurt how I felt about the show. So I went in with optimism, but cautious optimism.
All right, cool. Tony.
uh, so yeah, I would say also cautious optimism on my part. Of course, it's a good studio. You know, they make at least anime that looks really good, or fairly good, I would say. Uh, I like this type of anime. Like I like the historical uh stories told with like a twist of either comedy or modern, you know, just a modernity to it. And so I was interested going into it. Um, but I also know that these kinds of stories or these kinds of anime can oftentimes fall short. So yeah, I was looking forward to it. Wasn't 100% sold, and yeah, here we are.
And what about you, Mason?
Pretty much in line with Raggedy. Cloverworks always delivers, but Caroline failed it, and she was pretty much saying like it seemed kind of juvenile at times. It kind of seemed a little childish in the antics, and that's I think gave her a bad flavor to it. So I was, yeah, cautious optimism.
And for me, it was a show I had to watch for this week. I honestly didn't
Oh,
have. I before this, I had no hand in picking it. I just sort of knew that this was a show I had to watch this week, so I had no expectations in it. And sort of, unless I have like prior like I did something or I have something to do with it, a lot of these shows that I ended up on, I basically am like, oh, this is what we're watching. It was the same with Rolling Impact. I literally had no real expectations going into it, other than I was told that it was a sports anime that I was watching. So it was a lot of the same. It's obviously going to be different going forward because I will have
Some
some idea of a
experience,
lot
yeah.
of these, with that stuff. So this one was really, we're watching it this week, and it's not 24 episodes, thank God. But which honestly, it's interesting. I feel like this one was, anyway, more of a slog to get through than Rolling Impact, which is really weird to say in a lot of ways. But yeah, I honestly had no crazy expectations. I didn't know the studio or anything, and I just went into it pretty much with not knowing what it's going to be. And essentially, by partway through the first episode, I went, "Oh, this was probably a listener's choice." And then my expectations were set. So it was either Mason passed it or it was a listener's choice. But I was pretty sure it
Whoa.
was a listener's
Whoa,
choice.
Hey, it was either passed by the people who have
Wow.
bad taste or the guy who has bad taste.
I never said it was because of bad taste. I felt like it felt aesthetics over substance for a bunch of
Damn.
it. And so that's why I felt like Mason probably passed it, because
Just like
Mason
me,
will
baby.
give a chance to it. Yeah, Mason watches a lot of stuff with substance, but he does love the prioritize aesthetics,
Put
and
in
I
the
don't
sub
blame
in
him for it.
substance.
So yeah, and I guess I'll just to lead into, like, would I recommend it? Maybe. It's sort of maybe once the second part comes out, the second season. But for now, it feels like it was enjoyable and I didn't hate it. So kinda, but I you kind of have to figure, like, I wouldn't recommend it just whole writ. I feels like a kind of show that you kind of have to be willing to go in with some some reserved expectations and let it sort of take you to places, I guess. Raggedy?
So for me, it's probably more of it's a recommend, but it's more of a soft recommend. The visuals are definitely the highlight. They do falter in some spots as the show progresses. They There are some areas of CGI that get put in that, um, while not necessarily bad, because of how good the rest of the show looks, is this kind of like jarring, uncanny experience, or at least it was for me. Um, and on some level, it is, a little bit of a run of the mill shonen. It does do enough different that it's worth checking out. Uh, like I said before, the escaping as a power is interesting, and they use it in really smart ways, and it really lets Cloverworks flex their skills. The historical fiction stuff is fun. There is a lot of tonal kind of whiplash where it goes from being very brutal to being very silly very quickly, which can really take you out of it. Character wise, there is one character that the one that Caroline complained about the most is annoying, is very annoying. But the main characters, the elusive warriors from like the trivia question, their dynamic is great. They are a fun group of characters, so I think it's definitely worth a watch.
And Tony.
Yeah, I gotta go in line with the whole like soft recommend thing because uh, I think this show had some real potential, but it just to me, and this is gonna be different for everyone, it just felt tonally inconsistent. I feel like you had a couple options with the show in creating the show. You could have gone just very serious with it, where it's like, the things that are happening in the show are very tragic and very traumatizing and very adult in their nature. And so you could have leaned into that, or you can go the silly fun route. And it just felt like this show bounced back and forth between that in ways that kind of didn't let you feel satisfied with either. So if that's not something that will bother you, then I would say give it a shot. But if you've seen shows that do that and it irritates you, or it doesn't sit well with you, then I would avoid it. But so yeah, I'll give it a I will give it like a 51%, kind of like I'm just leaning on the side of recommend, but barely.
Fair. Mason.
I think I'm just gonna steal Raggedy's notes for this one. Kind of how Tony put it. You can either have a history show that's history, period. You can have history exclamation mark because it's history. This show didn't know what it wanted and kind of just mumbled a bunch of stuff at the end of it. And in a word, this show is jarring. Now, I think this is more of an issue in the first half from the tonal whiplash, the abrasive comedic timing, misused CG assets, like all the beautiful sakuga in the world that this show presents can't buoy a show that's dead set on trying to sabotage itself by like over making this complex dance that it's just not ready for. And it's still an mostly enjoyable show. Like, it's very playfully gory. It's kind of like a split between Golden Kamui, Hell's Paradise, and the Heike story, but it's kind of near the bottom of that batch of just not quite having the confidence, despite all the good ideas it has, to really come through. And I enjoyed my time with it. I would give it, like you guys said, a soft recommendation. But I think for how much good stuff was here, I'm just more disappointed that we didn't get something better. And that's where I'm kind of walking away from it with. So I think we can get into spoilers.